you guys for joining. Welcome back to another healing podcast with your favorite life coach, AddySpeaks. Today, we have on here Jackie Lewis. He's going to come on here to share a story on how he overcame his environment to walk into his godly purpose. He is a motivational speaker. He's an author. He is a husband, and he's also a father. Thank you so much, Jackie Lewis, for joining. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. That's good. So today I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. I am Jackie Lewis. I am an author, a father, speaker, handyman around the house, a multitude of hats.
Yes.
But most importantly, I am a child of God.
Yes. That's good. So thank you so much for introducing yourself. So I really want to get into your story. Your story is so impactful to the community because, again, not many people are able to overcome their situation. So it's very good to know where you started and where you are now is a blessing to hear. So my first question is like, how was life growing up for you? Like, I want you to tell us about yourself just a little bit more.
Yeah. So I grew up in foster care. But even before that, before I went into the system, my parents were drug addicts.
Right.
So I had to deal with that. I had to deal with the fact that after a certain point, they stopped going to court to even try to get me back.
Right.
And then after all of that, then I went into the foster care system. And I had to do all of this as a elementary schooler. I was elementary school age. So dealing with that, and then in foster care, you're bouncing from home to home to home. You're building bonds and attachments to people, and they're here one day and gone the next. So I have to deal with that. And I finally make it to SOS Children's Village in Coconut Creek. And there, it was more of a steady place to be. So I had a steady group of friends, peers, and things of that nature. We even called each other's cousins growing up. So it was nice to finally have some and people that are not going to leave you.
Right.
And even in all of that, and then I got adopted at the age of 16, which is rare because teenagers are rebellious. Regular teenagers are rebellious. So foster children, we're usually even more rebellious. So dealing with that was a blessing. So I have my two foster brothers. Well, they're my brothers. We're not even foster brothers. And then now I am married. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I've written and published 4 books, and I've had the ability to do a multitude of things in my short 34 years.
Good. That's really good to hear. My next question would be, what did you realize throughout your growing up that you had to deal with, like that you had to heal from?
Yeah, so I am still dealing with attachment issues,
Okay.
abandonment issues. Even at 34, even in my marriage, I have attachment and abandonment issues. But one thing that I can say is that I have learned and I have experienced that my future is not subject to what my past was.
Right.
So regardless of what I may have been in the past, I don't have to be that in the future.
Right.
And that's what I've learned, and that's what I take with me. I am not going to be. So when I was about 15,
Right.
my mother was meeting with my case manager, and or in jail. And, and my mom said, no, whatever generational curses you think will cause that is going to stop with this child.
Exactly.
So here I am, 34 years, 13 years later, I am a living testimony that your past does not have to dictate your future.
It really doesn't. Like, it doesn't define who you are. It's how you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that you really painted that picture. My next question would be, so when did you realize that it was time for you to begin your self-healing journey? Even though now you know that, yes, I still have these wounds, or at least I know of my wounds, but this is what I'm doing to sustain the healing or overcome, those wounds.
Yeah. So I have been, they say your romantic relationships tend to expose a lot of your childhood trauma. So I have been in a season where right now I am in Texas.
Right.
The rest of my family is in Florida. I moved out early so that way I could start building a foundation for them in Texas. This month has been one of the most trying months of my life.
Wow.
Not being able to hold my kids, not being able to hold my wife. Because we've been together 8 years now. I'm accustomed to my good night kiss. I'm
Right.
accustomed to my good night hug.
Right.
And to not have that is draining. When I tell you, like, they say like humans should have a certain amount of touch per day.
Right.
Like being touch deprived is a real
Right.
thing. Like not being able to hug and embrace people is a real thing because we're social creatures.
Exactly.
And to not have that has I've been dealing with like different anxieties, different thoughts, and it's like you either are going to trust this person that they have your best interests at hand,
Right.
or you're going to start making false accusations and destroy
The
what
promise.
could be.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like having to balance that is a huge
Yeah.
undertaking, specifically for me because my love language is time
Right.
spent. And I
Quality time. I mean, I feel like this place for you is like weird. It's new, and it's like a big adjustment. That's one thing. If you take your journey very seriously, you'll know that I think I should adjust to this,
yeah.
and you'll do what you'll have to do to adjust to it just to get the outcome that you desire.
Hmm.
So that's really nice to hear that you're like, yo, I'm in a weird place right now, but I am muscling through it.
Yeah. Because you have to. You either get through it or you suffer through it.
Right.
Either way, you have to go through the process.
You
So
can't skip the journey.
you cannot. You were going through this process one way or the other. So
Exactly.
for me, I'm like, let me buckle down and learn this the first time God gives this to me. So
Yes.
I don't have to spin the block and do this all over again.
Exactly, because never a fun thing to spin the block on a lesson,
No.
because it's like for me, I get anxiety when I have to repeat stuff because I guess my history of having to repeat third grade
Yeah.
and having to go to summer school and then just having to feel inadequate, just feeling inadequate in general just gives me anxiety. So I don't want to repeat something. That's why I was like right now I'm like, God, oh, I see this to be a lesson.
Yeah.
Let me pay attention and let me make sure I don't waver off this lesson. Let me learn all I need to know,
Yeah.
because when it comes back around, because sometimes it comes back around just to test you,
Hmm.
right? You got the lesson. Now I need to know if I can test you and how
Yeah.
you're gonna pass it. So it's just learning the first time.
Right.
It ain't gonna feel good. Just learning the first time.
Listen, in the Navy, they say you could either leave here smart or you could leave here strong.
Exactly.
And let me just leave her smart. Like,
Right? Listen, because you got to know how to maneuver.
facts. Yeah.
So my last question would be, so since you, well, I don't know if you answered this. What are the things that you, I don't want to say, I'll say, what are the things that you added towards this journey to like assure that everything's going to be okay. I know you looked at it as a lesson, but what else would you say that you're doing to sustain yourself on a day-to-day basis?
So I've been journaling. I've also I've decided to go on a journey
Right.
to discover who I am
Right.
outside of my relationships. Who is Jackie outside of being a father and a husband?
Right.
So that's what I'm working on, and having to sit down with hard questions with what have I procrastinated on that will really help me out in life. Having to answer those hard questions is difficult, but I have the opportunity to answer those hard questions without the distraction of having to accommodate everybody else in my life.
And
So I think that has been a blessing.
yeah, you see how you switch your perspective? How
Yeah.
you could have looked at it in a negative way, like, gosh, why did I have to do this? I don't want to do this anymore. And you probably went back, but you're
Hmm.
seeing that this is also an opportunity to get to know yourself in a different level.
Yes,
And not many people will, take it as that. And it could be an up and down journey, but that journey is very enlightening.
it is.
When you just keep going,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So
And just having to find things that you enjoy, like I'm not good at it, but I'll go shoot the basketball.
right, I will try.
Like I've been cooking every day, just doing little things for me, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, and that's how you start your self-love journey, loving yourself in a different level.
Facts.
Um, so the last thing I wanted to ask you, besides journaling, besides doing the smallest things to incorporate besides cooking, do you this is probably a little personal, but do you have like a little a night conversation with your wife? Like, would you be like, hey, let's have a prayer? Because some people in long distance
Yeah.
relationships, they'll incorporate either a live call, something.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there something you and your wife incorporate in your time separation? Or
Yeah, we try to FaceTime every night, and we try to talk. We check in at least 2 to 3 times a day periodically. So that has helped me keep my
yeah,
sanity and just, being, even though I can't physically be there with her, being
right,
able to hear her voice provides me with a reassurance,
yeah.
So that has been great.
That's good. So, I would ask, what is something that you can leave the audience? You having such a profound life. I'll say a profound life,
Thank you.
because you're an author, you're doing things to service the community, even though your growing up wasn't as easy as some others would have been, or some other children.
Mhm.
What is something that you can leave the audience? Any word of encouragement that you can leave the audience?
I would say understand that you don't have to do life alone.
Right.
Even if you don't have a significant other, it is important to have a community, a support system, a support group. Sometimes you may only be able to get a support person, an
Right.
accountability partner, if you will.
Right.
But you have to have somebody that you can lean on. Because if you try to do this thing called life on your own, it will weigh you down and it will wear you out.
It'll be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even I'll say this, even if you can't find a person or a community, definitely secure a therapist. I
Yes.
personally would advise that, because not all the time in your healing journey, depending where you are,
Mhm.
that you'll be open to inviting someone in. And if you do invite someone in, do they have the capacity to
Right.
support that part of you? So um, those goes, those goes hand in hand. So if anything, a therapist is always a good thing
Definitely.
to have
Yeah.
outside of those things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Jackie, thank you so much for joining this podcast. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
So, you guys, please join us at our next episode will be this Thursday. I say our. The next episode will be this Thursday. I will have another guest on to speak on how she overcame her childhood traumas. Thank you guys so much for joining the Healing Conversations with AddySpeaks. You guys have a healing day. Have a good one, Jackie.
You too.
Thank you.